Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my channel. So I'm back. It's a wrap. 3 weeks on the road doing some retreats with a heap of gorgeous, lovely ladies. I've returned to base camp. It is Saturday morning for me, so I'm not sure when you'll be seeing this, maybe later Saturday or Sunday morning. Not sure yet. So what I thought I'd do is a bit of a wrap up of what I picked up, what I was gifted, and some stories, and just catch up with you guys and go through even what's arrived in the mail while I was away. Poor old Gaz, he was like, gee, you've got a lot of parcels piling up here. So there was quite a lot of books arrived that were on pre-order, and publishers have now released them. I think they were ordered way back in April and have arrived. Some fabrics from Rachel. So yeah, let's start at the top. First of all, I went to Ballarat to the gorgeous girls down there. We had the retreat in the same venue as we did with Susanna, the Sebastopol Bowls Club in Ballarat. Great venue, really, really good. They really looked after us. And in the process of the 4-day retreat, we took the girls to Gail's Patchwork Emporium and also Rose Hill Cottage Fabrics. Oh gosh, I bet that's not the right name. I probably should have done this video in a couple of days when I was more awake, but I was just busting to show you everything and tell you all the stories. So if you, I'll put all the links to everyone below, all of the businesses that I refer to, so it'll make it really easy and actually true and correct. So first of all, at Gail's, I picked up some more Japanese fabrics to add to my little collection. I've got them in a few different color waves and I just love them. I'm not sure what they'll be used for. I'm getting a nice little pile of them and they would make just a gorgeous quilt, or who knows. I just love the way the girls put them together. It takes the hard work out of it. I have nibbled into them before on different projects, some of the red ones on that Easter panel, but picked up those. Also at Gail's, some of the girls found some trims, so I just hopped in the queue and said, oh, I'll have a bit of that. So a music with little birds on it. This one's little houses, and there's a measuring tape. Yeah, I've had this one before and I've used it all. So I'm always on the hunt for measuring tape trims. Needle holders, needle minders. So magnet on the back and you can pop your needle on them on your work and keep it with your work. So I've actually got a few of those in my travels. So I'm not sure where the others are, but at least I found 2 to show you. And pretty much everywhere we went, the Tilde buttons were in stock. So I got some in Brisbane at Quirky Quilts and some at Ballan, some at Gail's. They were everywhere. So beautiful range of fabric covered Tilde buttons are out there. The other thing I found in the Japanese fabric section with this beautiful piece of fabric, and it really felt to me like a Fleur Woods inspired piece. So if you're ever wanting to have a go at a Fleur Woods inspired piece, find yourself a pattern similar to this and just get stitching. So you can do all sorts of tricky little stitches in these open sort of flowers. The other fabric I picked up was a piece of Christmas fabric. You know, when you're done and you walk out of the shop and then someone says, look what I just found. Well, then we all file back in. Give me a piece of that, please. I don't know what I'll do with it. I just thought it was beautiful. Now, who is it? Surely there would be 3 Sisters is the maker. Favourite collages, Moda. 3 Sisters. No other info than that. So if you have a chat to the girls at Gail's, they can have, they'll have a quick look at the video and be able to find that particular fabric. If you're an Aussie girl, they do ship overseas, I believe. Yes, I think so. So this one here, is there anything on a selvage? No. But they had some beautiful, beautiful prints in those. Then I picked up at Ballan lots and lots of Liberty Fabrics in Rose Mill. It's not Rose Hill, Rose Mill Cottage. I think that's it. Gosh, I apologise, girls. I'll get that name right down in the link below. But they do gorgeous little pieces that you can just sort of put together a bit of a colour wave if you're so inclined. I've got videos of both of those stores when I was there in March. I'll link that below. So you can actually go for a tour through those two shops and have a little look. These here I'm thinking for the Just Because quilt. I sort of felt like I had a need for some small, bright prints. So that's why they were purchased. See, I can justify anything. That's why they were purchased. Now, while I was down there at Gail's, she had in stock some of the Hare's Nest stitcheries. Now, this little zippy bag you would have seen on Susanna's channel. She picked it up for her birthday treat. Just a simple little bag, the zip's already stitched in, and then using these images and the little morsels that come with it, you are inspired to do, you know, random stitching, mark making, things like that. Now, if you decide to do something like this, there's no instructions. It really is lots of inspiration that you can use to sort of find your way around the project. I'll show you the project in a moment. So I also picked up this panel which has lots of quirky critters. I don't know if you'll be able to see it real well. Quirky critters holding needles, threads, like there's a rooster there on the bobbin, two little birds, look at the bear, an owl, a butterfly holding a needle and thread. That's, I believe, a little mouse. So it's a strip with a heap of little prints. I was planks of the two little mice there on the thimble, on the cotton reel, little bird. So really quirky little critters. I was planning on stitching them, but I just ran out of time. So let me show you some that are stitched. Little thieves. So there's the little bear, rather cute. These are popping up everywhere, all over the internet. So you may have someone nearby that you can order from. Like, look at the way the little edge is done, little dots, knots, dashes, all in one strand or two strands. The detail, very fine, very pretty. These little pieces were all needle turned applique on a big panel, and they look like they were floating in the store that Gail had on display. So that little panel was also picked up. I just think it'd be a nice little element to add to projects, and I could just, you know, pinch one out, which was the plan, but didn't happen. Well, that was, I'll show you the project in a moment that I was working on. I'll never get that back in. These little stencils came with this little pouch. So little stencils that you can use to make some shapes on your fabric and then stitch. So that was in addition, and I got a lot of inspiration from this. That was in addition to the little pouch. And then it so happened that while I was away, a delivery arrived from Cottage Garden Threads, where I had ordered 2 additional stencils ages ago. And from what I understand, the girls launched their business going into little kits and things, especially this Hare's Nest stitchery, and they got absolutely swamped. So it took a little while for all the parcels to get out, and they had to hire staff, and oh, it's so exciting for them. So congratulations, ladies. That's Cottage Garden Threads. So I got with that a little free thread, which was lovely. I did pick up 2 of their threads in Ballarat and used them on my project, but they're sort of being used now. I don't even think I'd be able to find them to show you. They were like colour, variegated threads that had been hand dyed, just DMC style stranded cottons. That's a little pearl cotton. So these, yeah, arrived in the mail while I was away. And in addition, I had the printed panel and the pouch, which sort of became my project for the whole trip. because, you know, I had to have something to stitch. Let's put that back in there so everything's back where it once was. The thread can go into my thread corner. But if you Google Hare's Nest Stitcheries, you'll find them. They're a Ballarat company and they're popping up everywhere now, which is really, really cool. Love it when there's an Aussie in town making waves. So they were the little projecty things that I picked up. Let me just get this a little bit more organised, guys. Sorry for the rustling of the packaging. Okay. In addition, down at Ballarat, look what I found. The new Spargo. And would you believe, mushrooms are on my mind for the Roxy Journalist Stitchery. So I haven't done the leaves or the mossy garden forest floor, so I've got some stitching to catch up with, which will be next week, so I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, you may have seen, oh, that's the Jessie Chorley that goes over here. I got my Jessie Chorley book in the mail. So here is a quick flip through of Sue's new book. So this is a big project and all of the panels are adorned with mushrooms. So talk about inspiration. If I ever want to stitch a mushroom, I now know I go to the mushroom department and one book will do it. I've got quite a few things on my Pinterest of mushrooms from when I was doing a 3-dimensional one for my Christmas tree. And I was actually sitting there this morning having a look at my Christmas tree mushroom. And I just love its colours and tone and texture, and I think I'll definitely go down the line of using some of my wools, which I did pick up at one of the shops in Queensland. So I'm ready for that prompt, that mossy floor. I was watching Rachel's mushroom and I was like, oh, I so want to stitch a mushroom, but it's like, wait, hold, recover, get back into stitching. So that's Sue's beautiful mushroom quilt. There's so many. Absolutely gorgeous. There it is in the full shot. So Gail had this book at Gail's Patchwork. Yeah, great. Okay, so then we trundled on back to Brisbane and went to the Ipswich girls. Had a lovely time with those girls. Talk about laugh at all of the retreats. We just laughed and laughed and laughed. As for shopping, we went to the sewing lair and I got, actually not a lot. I was sort of just letting the girls go for it. So there's nothing really to show from shopping lair. But I will say my bench over there is just full of gifts from the ladies. Just gorgeous, gorgeous, generous ladies. And everyone was swapping things and oh, it was just fantastic. What else did we do in Ipswich? We took the girls to, they went to the Christmas shack. So we had a look through my store. Then we went over to Quirky Quilts and then we went to the bead shop down at Browns Plains. I'll list all these places as well. Even though I didn't do any shopping there, I'll list them because you might want to go and check out their websites, or if you're a Queensland girl, might be somewhere you want to go and check out. And once we finished at the beads, we went back for lunch and carried on stitching. So lovely, lovely time with the Ipswich ladies. I stayed on site near the venue. So hello, Trish. Thank you for not only attending my course, but looking after us. It was Trish's a business where she can host such things as retreats and all sorts of events. There was even a group learning CPR in the next room. So it was once was an Italian restaurant, and Tricia's taken over the whole premise and is turning it into a fantastic space to host events. So once I finished Ipswich, I trundled back home to the Fraser coast and joined the girls at a resort at Harvey Bay. Another bunch of gorgeous ladies. Oh my goodness. And there were a heap of cheeky babes from the Ballarat group that was with me and Susanna at Susanna's retreat in March. So it was like a reunion. Oh, it was fantastic. And then Anita came up for a drive. Now Anita was down at the Ballarat retreat, and was decided to jump in the car and come up and spend the evening with us. And then we bumped into her at shops as we were going around Harvey Bay doing a bit of retail therapy. It was so cool. It was just great to see her. So I hope everyone's made it home safe that travelled out of the whole 3 groups. I'm sure yous have. Gosh, I tell you, it was a whirlwind tour, but it was just the best. So while we were at Harvey Bay, we went to my 2 favourite shops, Dewdrop Inn and Howard Drapery, the little town of Howard. So we'll show you those things through. The lovely Vicky, hi Vicky, made us some scones, and her daughter made us some Anzac biscuits. Oh, I tell you, spoiled. Now, Vicky had on her counter these. Now, these are pins. So they're just embellishing items. But then someone over my shoulder, I can't remember who it was now, said, take the back off, put a magnet on them, and you've got a needle holder. And I was like, genius. I actually thought they were needle holders at first when I picked them up. And I saw the price, they were $4.50. I'm like, oh, Vicky, I don't know if you got your price right there, because I'd bought them down in Ballarat and they were a lot dearer. But it turned out they were the pins. They weren't the actual needle holders. So that quickly sorted Corrine's brain out. So I picked up those little 3. I thought they were just adorable. Out the back, there was a basket of pre-cut wools. Now, there was larger pieces and then there was wools by the metre. And, you know, I was like, you know, I'm spending a fortune on these wools. I could buy more. But, you know, slow stitches, we only need little bits. And I thought, I know they're there. I know I'm local. So if there's one in particular that I use and I just love it, I can go back and buy, you know, 1/2 metre or 30 centimetres worth. So I thought, no, just a little sampler. I got a very small collection of Spargo wools, and the lovely Vanessa from the Harvey Bay group gifted me some morsels of also Spargo. So I feel like now I've got just a lovely little range. And for my mushrooms, I think these will be just adorable. So it was good having a project in my mind, because it kept me focused on a colour palette. Just that, like that just so has to be the top of a mushroom. Oh, goodness me. The other thing I grabbed that was on the counter, and I thought I'd show you, is CWA. Is like a group of ladies, Country Women's Association it stands for, and they're in most towns, and they just do a fantastic support system for a town, raising money through baking and sewing and events, and just hands on deck when a community needs them. So I'm a big fan of the Country Women's Association. I've grown up around them. They're just a bunch of really cool ladies. Now at Howard, they were celebrating the township of Howard and the time that it's been with us, so 1949. It's just, oh, they're just great. And they had printed some tea towels. Now, if you would like one of these tea towels, and I think when you see the design, you'll go, oh, I know why the girl bought that, because of what the prints are and we can stitch into them, and they're just gorgeous fabrics. So contact the drapery and Vicky will sort it for you. The money, they're $20 each. The money doesn't go to Vicky and her business. She keeps it separate and the girls collect it. Goes directly to the CWA. So Vicky will work out a way that you can get your $20 across, and then Vicky will get this across to you. So let me show you. Just love it. I always look at tea towels. I just think there's some great designs out there that can be used. Like, look at that. Oh, isn't it gorgeous? And then the top bit. So 1, 2, and 3 images. That's pretty good value for a $20 note going to a fantastic organisation. So there you go. That is the, oh, it's organic certified. Oh, good on you, ladies. So is it cotton? Organic cotton. It's got a real nice texture about it. So even the bits we don't use, they're great. Beautiful fabric. So yeah, just contact the girls at the drapery, Howard Drapery, and you will be able to get your hands on a CWA tea towel. put that in there. Now, what else did I do? Sorry, guys. That is Howard then dewdrop in. So Vanessa, one of the girls at the retreat, she found these gorgeous large pins. There were 3 colours, a rose gold and I think it was a gold, and this antique bronzy look. So I was like, oh, I better have me a couple of those. Fabric-wise, I found this in there. So there were 3 toile printed fabrics. One I had a creamier background and one was a green, a soft olive green. And I just thought it was beautiful. There's the details, printed in Japan, Quilt Gate. And like I said, there were 3 colour waves, and then the imagery from this was in a heap of other bolts of fabric. So I grabbed it because I thought of the Just Because quilt. I thought not only is there nice pieces, but I think I need one of those in amongst my quilt. I'm a bit of a fan of toile, and I've got old vintage ones, and I thought to have one that was more current as well would be lovely. Then one of the girls walked past me with that. I think it was Anita actually, who drove up to say hello to her buddies from the retreat that Susanna hosted. I'm sure it was Anita. I'm like, oh, Anita, what have you got there? Because she literally was walking up the footpath to the store as we were all trundling down the footpath to the store. Look at this. How good is that for fussy cutting? So the postage stamps. Let's have a look at the selvage. Scented garden. So that might be something that you think, oh, that might be handy for projects. Very, very good. And Vanessa was doing the panel at the Harvey Bay retreat, the Christmas panel that we were all working on, and tags. And she decided to use this colour palette for her Christmas panel. So the beautiful champagne flower leaves through the panel, and then little touches of the blue and that for the magnolias. And oh, it was just beautiful, just something different. So I thought, well, I might grab me a piece of that because I know I'll use it. You know, I'm a bit of a blue champagne girl. Don't think I've got a selvage name, but the girls from Dewdrop In, they'll be able to find it for you if you're an Aussie girl and you would like a little piece. I'm sure they'll make that happen for you. Okay, what else? What else? Oh, this here. Now, this was gifted to me from the lovely Vanessa as well, and she picked it up. Oh, I don't know where. I don't know if we even had that conversation. This is Lucello. Lucello is bringing out a range of fabric that is linen printed. So how gorgeous is that? I need to go and do a bit of research on it and see what else is in their range because I'm a Lucello girl. I love that French sort of floral imagery, and then to have these little vintage antique ephemera pieces, just gorgeous. I love how they've floated it on the print as well, so there's little bits of colouring that can be used as well. Oh, lovely. Thanks, Vanessa. That's just a rabbit hole that I need to look into some more. I will go through in the description and try and mention as many of these fabrics so that way you guys know where to go and what to look for. Now, what else was there? Now, young Tia. Tia, Calm Creations. Tia is a fellow YouTuber, and I invited her along to the Ipswich and Harvey Bay as my backup crew. Susanna was my backup girl in Ballarat, and Tia took 2 weeks annual leave and came on the road with me, and we had a ball. So she stayed with me at my place, and then we went each day to the Harvey Bay retreat. And in the process of hanging out in my craft room and having a close-up look at my 2 Fleur Woods pieces and the book, that was it. She was off and racing. So we set her up with some fabric, and she spent a lot of time stitching some Fleur Woods inspired pieces. So shout out to Fleur once again. One of the girls spots your beautiful work and away they go. Tia has Fleur's book, but it was in Brisbane, and it was just, I guess, time out for Tia to do something she wouldn't normally be doing. She hasn't made a lot of videos more recently because she's been very busy at her work. They've increased her shifts and she's just a busy girl. So she very much was inspired just having that time out to flip through a book and do some stitching. So thank you, Tia, for your support. Thank you, Susanna, for your support. You girls are just the best. Now, another lady I want to give a shout out to is the gorgeous Diane. Now, Diane I met in Ballarat at March. Again, I tell you, once you get into a circle of gorgeous women and you can then catch up again and again, it's just so, it's so good. Diane is a girl from Mackay, and Diane has a side hustle making bags for sale. And I said to her, and then she wanted to come to the Harvey Bay retreat, and I said, well, you can come for sure, but can you do a pop-up store for the girls at Harvey Bay? I just didn't have the time to do a lot of sewing. I had some tins and tins of morsels and things like that, just a small little presentation and bits and bobs. And Diane was able to go through her goodies. She makes a lot of hats for the markets, bucket hats in all different sizes. And in addition, she works on some bags. So I picked up a couple things. But first, she gifted me, look at this. Look at this beautiful quilt. It's the pillow slip. Now, it was part of a bigger set. I think Diane said, did I get this right, that your mum either purchased it or made it? I think she purchased it, and Diane found it sprawled out on a bed. And, well, look at this. Isn't it just gorgeous? I would have to say, I've got a few pieces of old quilt, you know, bits of quilt. I reckon this one's the nicest. I just love its colours. And, it's just beautiful. I love it. Thank you, Diane. You just, I'm telling you, generosity. And these bits, plus heaps of other things, was in this gorgeous satchel that she had made. A slow-stitched front with a big, large, generous pocket. She has put a binding around the outer edge, and then you flip it over, and look at this, a zipper. Look at the Harlequin zipper. Changes colour. Just matches beautifully. And you've got a zipper pouch in here. You can see your project or your pattern. Very clever. So this was chockers full of little bits and bobs as a gift. And I just, I love it. Thank you so much. Now, in addition, I had to buy something too. The first thing I bought was this. Look at this denim bag. Just beautiful. Look at the work on the one side of it. Now, Diane does a lot of travelling around the countryside. Lucky girl. So she has time to do extra stitching. And look, we've got a bit of a Jennifer Clouston happening here. Hi, Jennifer, if you're watching. Look at this. Jennifer's got a lot to answer for. She sent us on all of these tangents. And then just bits and bobs. I got some of this lace from Diane in March at the Ballarat retreat, and it's just gorgeous. It's been popping up everywhere in my work. So on the front of the bag is this gorgeous work, and here is her business, Windmill Water Textile Studio, handmade by Diane Hope, and her details. I'll put her details in the description below, so I don't know if maybe you could reach out to her or send me a message, or I don't know how we'd pull it off, but there's an opportunity maybe that you might be able to have a look at some of her bags. On the back is that classic denim bag. Morsels put together to create a gorgeous piece. Hello, Fudgy. Hasn't he been clingy since I got home? Have you missed me, Fudge? I think you have. See? It's not all about you. It's about me, and you've missed me. He's a good boy. So that was the bag that I purchased. And then, you know, when you're sitting there side-eyeing something on the table and you think, oh, I don't need it. I could make it myself. But there it is. No one else has bought it. Maybe I should buy it. Was this little pouch. Just gorgeous. So There's a few of us on YouTube that are playing and with crocheting using these, torn up fabrics. It's all Kate's fault. Hi, Kate. Kate from Kate's Nest has been crocheting and making pouches and bags, and everyone's been shredding fabric and making couches and bags. I actually saw there was quite a few of these bigger bags made there by Diane around this sort of size, and it was great because it was a single bed doona that had been torn up to make a bag of that size as the denim ones. So it sort of gave me a bit more perspective of how much fabric you're going to need for these projects. Because before I went on the retreat watching Kate, I got out a jelly roll and I did a little bit of crocheting. I used the number 10 hook and created a bowl using a jelly roll that I thought I'm never going to use that. So I'd already, had a play and a reminisce about crocheting with fabric. And then when that was there, I'm like, well, I could make it myself, but you know how it goes. Be no making it yourself when it's sitting there beside you. So that's sort of a lovely little side hustle that I picked up on there. It's just going to be so handy, so handy. Now, in the pack that the gorgeous Diane gave me, she gave me some twine. See that there? Jennifer Clouston makes this twine. Diane then did a little demonstration at the retreat of how to do it. So the girls started doing oh look, we went on so many tangents. You can imagine when you get a heap of girls together and someone goes, how do you do this? And I know, and away we go. So Diane actually gave me a few meters of this twine in that satchel with the clear front and the zipper. So as soon as I got home on the first night, I sat down, I went through all my pieces. I wanted to do it calm, with a nice cold drink and just relax and enjoy the gift. And I said to Tia, I've got to stitch this into a bowl because Dawn from Dawn's channel is Dawn Meldrum. She was doing this. There's been a few pop up over the years that I've gone, I must do one of those rope bowls. I bought a rope bowl at a local craft market when Susanna was in town. So I finally got my hands on one that I didn't have to make. And Rachel has shown them on her channel using her sewing machine to stitch the rope. Now this is fabric wrapped in, a rope wrapped in fabric, sewing machine together to create. I'm going to move my chair. Fudgy, where are you? I don't want to run over any pussycat tails. So that's a bowl stitched on the sewing machine, and that's another one. All right. So nice and quick, but pretty heavy going on your sewing machine. And my sewing machine's an old girl, so I haven't really rushed to do that project. Then I saw Dawn do a hand-stitched bowl, and then I was gifted some plaited rope. There's a real trick to that. Jennifer Clouston's video will show you how to make rope. I'll link that below. I think Catherine may have done something similar. You got to use a bit of water to make it really knot together and keep your fingers damp. There's a real trick to it. Anyway, I sat down and stitched myself a little bowl. It took forever. I think we got to the couch at 6:30 and 11:30 at night I'd finished. And Gaz looked over at me at one point and I was just going round here, round and round and round. And he was like, what are you doing? And at this stage it was tiny. And I said, it's a little bird feeder for pigeons. And he's like, right, okay. And Tia and I were just watching him process that thought, and Tia was cacking herself laughing. And then as the night wore on, we were watching The King of Tulsa, or Tulsa King, Sylvester Stallone, his series. Gosh, I go off on tangents. I bet you guys have missed me, I tell you. Tangents. So we'd watched season 1. Tia hadn't seen any of it. Season 2 is starting to come out. So we're like, let's watch it again. So Tia caught up on season 1. Each night we did 3 or 4 episodes. Straight into season 2. She's now up to speed with that particular series. It's 11:30 at night. I was still stitching and I thought, I'm not going to bed until it's done. So I used every last bit of it, put a little handle on there. It's got a slight shape like that. And then Gaz is looking at it as we're all heading off to bed for the night. And he goes, well, what is it again? And I said, I decided not to feed the pigeons. This is a bowl I can use to scoop flour out and make in baking. So it's a metric cup for cooking. And he's like, right. And you could see the cogs turning and Tia's cacking herself. So the poor fellow, we were teasing him. Aren't we naughty? So that's my metric cup for flour and using for cooking. I'm sure you guys get the reference that that's not actually what I would use it for. But anyway, so in addition, the last few things is I was gifted these gorgeous beads. Another thing you see on YouTube, but you just never get around to making. And it just, when you see them, you're like, oh my goodness, is that how you do it? So Diane made a heap of those and the girls just went, oh, yes, please. So I got gifted a few of those. The little one was hanging on that already. So morsels everywhere, guys. Morsels, morsels. Now, what else did I want to show? Oh, okay. So when I got back, the mailman had been. I'll show you that in a moment. You've seen quite a few YouTube girls out there show you their gorgeous journal of thread from the gorgeous Jessie Chorley. A couple of them are doing projects inspired by the book. I won't go through it because it's already out there, but oh, it's just so good to have a little bit more Jessie, and I'm a bit of a fan. I love her style. I love her work. So it's going to be great having a look through that on a rainy day. This one here, now talk about so close to buying it in Ballarat, and for some reason it was in my hand and I put it down because then I had the Sue Spargo book in my hand. I had the pair of them and I'm like, oh gosh, 2 more books. And I'm like, no, I won't buy this. I'll get it another time. And I put it back and one of the other girls picked it up and purchased it. And then when I got home, here it is. So I tell you, the universe was telling me, don't buy it, don't buy it. You had pre-ordered one from Tilley Rose when it was announced, I think, gosh, March. So this arrived. Oh, I tell you, you can't plan that stuff. Oh, just gorgeous. So it's going to be great to have a good flip through this. If you haven't seen it already, there's a quick flip. Not a lot of stitching, a few projects, but it's all about dyeing and using nature to enhance our work. So a different twist on what we're doing and sort of pushing our boundaries to use other mediums and textiles plus nature in our work. So very field notey. So really looking forward to having a good look through that. Now, the Just Because quilt. If you're following along with that, you know that part of my elements on one side are flour sacks. So I mentioned earlier in the video, because I had a couple, that I think I'd underestimated the size of that quilt and I was going to be on the hunt for flour sacks. I found a couple on eBay that I had purchased. Some of them were just crazy expensive. And then I had some gorgeous girls, there's 4 of you, that have sent me or gifted me at retreats flour sacks. So some of them would double up, so I've on-gifted them to Tia. So I won't go through all of them, and to be honest, they've all got mixed up. Like I've had this little flour sack pile. I've got little notes tucked in here that I'm yet to read properly from girls. Thank you, thank you. You guys just are the most adorable, adorable girls. I do say no to, what do they call it? Happy mail. I've got enough stuff, and I feel that if you're doing up a happy mail, give it to someone new to our world, because morsels are hard to come by for our slow stitching. It's very easy to find fabrics, but you've got to buy it by the metre, which I'm more than happy to do, and packs from quilt shops and things like that. But when it comes to collecting a range of colours, a range of textiles, that can take time. And the best way to do it is to scour the op shops, break down pieces of garmentry and share it around. So when I get messages from people to say, I'd love to send you a happy mail, I say, no, find someone new, because I got enough. I've got to start getting some out there too. Some new people I've bumped into that are just finding our world. And that's the ones we need to give that to. That's just my opinion. So please don't feel insulted if I send you a little message back and say, no, don't spend your postage to send it to me. Find someone to gift it to. Find a young person that's showing us interest in sewing, or send it back to the op stores because we're out there hunting. Do some packages up for the op stores, like bundle some gorgeous packs together, and then when you take it in, say, or the thrift stores, this is for the world of the slow stitch community. They're out there, we're scouring, we're always looking. It's ready to go, a complement of fabrics. I think that's something we could do to gift back. Oh, look at these. Some of these, oh my goodness. So we're going from flour to kibble bags. There's all sorts. There's lolly bags, there's wheat bags. Oh, I can't wait to have all this worked into. Oh, look at that. Oh, I tell you. All right, that's the story with those. I have plenty to pick from, and I'm sure they'll lead to other projects in the future. Thank you, ladies. I think there's 5 of you. There's notes tucked in everywhere, but that's for another day when I go rummaging to pull out elements for my Just Because quilt. Now, to wrap it up, to finish it off, the gorgeous Rachel, I sent her a message and I said, oh, your Christmas fabrics, what if I don't get them all? What do I do? Can I buy it by the metre each? And she goes, oh, yes, no problem. So the gorgeous Rachel worked out where the designs on her panel repeated, and I took metre each. So that way I know I've got them, and I can then, oh, look at these. I can then play at my heart's content. So I thought I'll show you those as well. They're big. There's meters here, so I can't show you too much easily on this camera system, but I'll just give you a bit of a thumb through. Now, Rachel does them up in packs, and the packs are all different, and it's like you can't go wrong. But if you did want to do a big project, maybe reach out to her and say, hey, can I buy the pattern when it repeats? So there's 2 panels here. I don't know. Sorry, Rachel. We're now selling them by bulk. That's just adorable. Dawn from Dawn Meldrum, by her name on YouTube, is doing a Christmas Just Because quilt. So I don't think I'll be doing that this year, but I thought, oh, maybe next year. Maybe I'll do a Christmas one using Rachel's beautiful fabrics. I bought linen because it's just exceptional to stitch through. I love the cotton as well, but I couldn't do it in both. So I thought linen, I'll go with the linen. It's got just such a lovely feel for a quilt. Look at them. Look at them. Seriously, and this is folded in half. 1, 2, 3, 4, just to get across the panel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 6, just to get the length of the panel. And there's 2 panels, and then in amongst it, where there's little gaps, there's little pieces of vintage ephemera. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you so much. It's arrived safe and sound. I took it to the Harvey Bay retreat, and the girls were just like ooh and ahhing over it. Oh, just gorgeous. I'm just trying to fold it up so it doesn't look like a rat has gone through the fabric. Made a mess. It's got to be nicely folded, doesn't it, girls? Let's get this one folded. So there, that's a wrap. So it's so good to be back. I hope you enjoyed the few things I showed you. I'm sure there's more in the room because everything is just piled everywhere as I sort of bolted in and out of the door and headed out for the next day. So as things pop up, I'll be like, oh, I got this at such and such. But that's pretty good. Oh, I know. Oh, hang on. Hold the horses. We're not done. Hang on. What did Corrine stitch while she was on the road? She did some stitching into the pouch. Now, where is that? Goodness sakes, I can't even see it in the room. I'm sure it'll pop up. It was the stocking pouch that I bought at the Nest, which is like sewing lair. It's handed in fabrics from the sewing world. No, can't see it. It's here somewhere. I embellished it. I'm going to pause the video and find it when I talk through this project, because I did do a bit of work on that. So when I travel, my go-to bag is my little Jennifer Clouston Caddy. It is genius. You know, I've got lots of pouches and bits and pieces that I've made over the years, but this one it just works. It just works. It travels well. You can get a lot into it. It is just brilliant. So you've seen videos on that, and that's the pattern. That's Jennifer's pattern. You can get that by emailing Jennifer, and her husband will ship that out to you. There is word of a website coming soon, so even if you just wait for the announcement of the website, I'm sure the pattern will be on there and available to purchase. Now, I didn't have this with me for Ballarat and Ipswich. I only had my little guy here. So I was winging it a bit. I was inspecting it, going, oh, what did I do? How did I do that? So when I got back to Harvey Bay, I did the actual formation of it. So let me show you what I did. I've got myself another Jennifer Clouston inspired little pouch. And how it all started is at the beginning of the video, I showed you that. This is the little pouch. And you're probably wondering, why didn't she show me the pouch? Well, for those of you who hung in to the end, this is the little pouch. This is it. The zip was already in, connecting these two sides, and then there was all sorts of bits and bobs that I could use to embellish it. And no real pattern, like I said, you just find your own way. So printed on a little square was a little bee. There was a little elephant, but I gifted that to someone. Now I can't remember who. They were like, look at the elephant. Here you go, you can have the elephant. I didn't need it because I'd sort of completed the one side. That's the stencil flower. I just used the photos to get a feel for what the style was with this particular pouch and stitching. And then I hand stitched it together because I didn't have a sewing machine with me. So I had to hand stitch everything. Now, technically this should have just had a straight bottom, but I thought because Jennifer's little drawstring bag in here allows you to get volume in, I thought, and it's, you know, really useful. I thought, well, I need some volume. So I decided to put a base into it. This was a piece of fabric I found on the Take What You Want table at Ipswich. Trisha, I think that was yours. She couldn't even remember where it come from. I did a little pinch pleat at the end here, and that then allowed it to be more substantial at the base to hold more, because it was literally straight down there and straight across. That's the pattern if you buy that kit. In addition, I added some fabric to the side because the zip would have made it a lot smaller. I'm just grabbing a ruler. If I had to stitch this down, it would have been that big. So I gained this extra fabric, which was there anyway, only to be cut off, by closing in the zipper a little, all done by hand, as bodgy as hand sewing is. This was the fabric that came with the kit. It's a William Morris print. That was the lining, but wasn't enough because I extended it. So I found this little piece in my travels. I think it was at the op store that I picked that up. And that became the other side. So it was like retro-fitted. Then I'm like, well, what am I going to do with it? Dawn gave me this little tulip. I then found that morsel, added that, twisted around with some cotton. That become the zipper pull. So pouch is now completed. I'm off to, I finished it at Ipswich. I'm like, well, what am I going to do with it? And this was sitting on the table. I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to retrofit myself another Jennifer Caddy. So instead of having to make this, I used this. Then, because I didn't have the pattern or the fabric measurements and everything with me, I sort of thought, well, let's just wing it. So I hand stitched this side, and in Jennifer's pattern, there's a needle there. Oh my goodness, look, just put it where you can at least see it. I hand stitched the zipper component in. I put a piece here and a bigger piece in the middle, hand stitched that again to get the the base on the internals. Then there's a lining in there. By then I was back at Harvey Bay, thank goodness. So I was able to get my pattern and just refresh my memory on how this all came together. And I was on the right track. My measurements were a bit out, as you can see, because the size of that baby compared to this big baby. So I've inadvertently created a bigger version so I can get quite a lot into those pockets, which I'm absolutely chuffed with. I'll come back to the handles because I had a little boo-boo there, but it's all good. You're hanging out with the girls, things get solved. So if you remember when I started the Just Because quilt, I had this beautiful old piece of cloth that had this patch where they had mended it. And I had the little cottages nearby. I ended up unpicking what I had done and repositioning things to suit this piece because I think that roof was here and that cottage was here. And then there was a piece of old fabric here that I'd sketched flowers onto. So it took a bit to convince me, but Tia's like, just remove it, it doesn't work, because it would have been underneath the pouch when it sat on my desk. So I removed that piece of fabric, relocated it to here. So it became the start of the opposite side because that was sitting there. So if that were folded, that gorgeous piece of vintage fabric would have been on the bottom. So I'd unpicked it, removed it, restitched it, and I left some of the little threads there that would have held it from whoever stitched it. I still want to do a little bit more stitching on it. I want to add some more bits and pieces. So that side's not completed, but I'm okay with that because when I go somewhere, I've got a little project waiting for me here. I just ran out of time. And even this side, I might come up with some more things to add. So that piece of fabric now has become the back or the front. So all I've got to do now is stitch around the perimeter because it's all done by hand, is stitch on this cordage, which becomes the loop for when the button is found, which I don't have yet, to secure it closed. So I'm working my way, and that's when the retreat came to the end. So this weekend I will continue hand sewing the cord on, and that's just, you know, that calico cord. I believe I got this from Bunnings, our big hardware chain in Australia. I got it in 2 sizes, so this is the thicker of the 2, and it becomes this little detail around the outside. Now the boo-boo, because I didn't have the pattern with me, was the handles were too long. So when I sort of have it up, they look too big. Look, they're okay, but they look a little bit too big. So that was like, oh no, what do I do now? Because I'd already stitched them in, and I'm like, I'm not unpicking it. And then I think it was Tia. Everyone had suggestions, like you solve these problems in a group. And Tia walked past and she goes, just do that. And I thought, brilliant. Or I could go this way with it. No, I can't because of well, I could probably do that way for that one. That is quirky. And then this way for that one. It doesn't matter, does it? So anyway, the moral of the story is problem solved because this was too long by about that much. Probably that much when you take this a bit either side. So thanks, Tia, for just wandering past the cluster of ladies, all standing around hypothesising what we could do to shorten my straps without Corrine having to unpick said straps. Look, it fixed it. Absolutely fixed it. So there you go. That was the project that I worked on while I was travelling. And now I'm close to finishing it. And I've got myself another Boro-inspired sewing caddy by the lovely Jennifer Clouston. Slightly bigger version so I can get even more stuff in it. And I know how much that little guy holds. Then I've got this little guy is ready with expansion at the base to take threads, and you need the space, don't you? Especially if you're going to pick up pearl cottons. Like, look at that. Oh my goodness. If you guys haven't made this pattern yet, you so need to. And like, you've just seen, like, look at that. I could get more in there and then fill that and that. Then it comes together and I've got a project. Oh, tell you what, genius, genius. Young Jennifer Clouston, or genius Corrine, who did it without the pattern by memory and modified all of the way to try and solve every issue she come across. And even Tia, genius. All right, we're a pack of geniuses, aren't we? All right, I'm going to grab that other project that you would have seen in one of the Brisbane, when I was sitting in Brisbane. So let me grab that. I'm going to pause the video. Back in a moment. Okay, I found it. I'm back. These also, there's another two over on the table. These were little morsels that I picked up at the Ballan store as well. Perfect for the Just Because quilt, because it's just little bits of 4 colours. So if you're ever in Ballan and Ballarat, there's plenty down there to check out. All right, let's just put that to one side. Now, when I was in Brisbane at the unit, coming and going from the hospital with Dad, update on Dad. Dad's doing okay. The operation was successful. He got his sun cancer removed from his nose. It was a pretty big operation and it knocked him for a 6. Not so much the actual operation and the surgery, it was the anaesthetic. So he developed delirium. He is still dealing with delirium. And in the process, we found some other issues in his brain that is meaning he's going to need some really good care around him. So unfortunately for Dad, the farm is no longer an option. It's very hard to get support in rural areas, as you may well know. So he needs to come to be closer to me, and we need to surround him with lots of good care to help him on his road to recovery and settle him into his new retired on holiday. What do we call it? You're on holidays now, Dad. Lifestyle. So we're working through all of that. Next week I start the paperwork side of things. Oh my gosh. And contacting all of the relevant departments to register and let them know we're here and what support's available and work through all of that. So next week's going to be a paperwork week. So yeah, Dad's now back up in the Fraser Coast area. He went from Brisbane to the Harvey Bay Hospital. Once he was stabilised and, you know, really starting to make some progress, he's been transferred to Maryborough Hospital, which is like the place you go after you've had some form of surgery or illness to recuperate and recover. So there's a lot of, what do they call it, services around you, rehabilitation. So it's like the rehabilitation hospital. It's an older hospital, and the Harvey Bay Hospital is a newer hospital. So from what I understand, the state government has sort of put all of the new stuff into Harvey Bay with all of the specialists and the surgeons, and Maryborough, our existing original old hospital, is where you go to recover and get support and get you back on your feet and back home or into some form of care or whatever. So that seems to be like there's 20 minutes between them driving. So off to Maryborough every other day to make sure Dad's okay and moving forward. So that's the update on Dad. So he's doing fine, and yeah, we're just on a whole new journey. Now, in the process of doing the Brisbane end of Dad's journey, the beginning, I went to that recycled fabric store and picked up some bits and pieces because I didn't really have a project with me. And I found, if you were up with the videos, I found this stocking holder. So we've got the crinoline lady on the front. Someone has attempted to do a bit of painting. It's long washed out. Whether that was on there and washed out, who knows? I'm still not sure what I'm going to do with her. One day she may get stitched. One day she might get covered. I unpicked the piece, breaking it down into sections, which then made it easier for me to work on. I had found this spot. So on the one side, actually I did it on both sides. One side, I covered it completely. And then off I went to Ballarat. And while I was sitting there with morsels around me from Susanna's supplies, plus pieces that I'd purchased, I slow stitched by hand a log cabin. You can see here there's a bit of an edge of a napkin. See that cross stitch there? That was my base. Then all of this happened. I've got the red hearth in the centre. Then I did a bit of collaging with some bits and pieces that were gifted to me. So that piece there was then stitched on the front here. Okay, so that's my Ballarat piece. Then as I moseyed on in my travels, I started with this panel next. This was a piece that was printed on a panel. I don't have it, I picked it up at the same location. So I then did a bit of stitching into it to sort of highlight it. I'll bring it up to the camera, and I try to keep it quite loose. So I did a lot of blanket stitch, just short and long stitch. This feels like I did this a million years ago. Then I started using some of the supplies that the girls were working with in their Christmas panels and tags, sequins and beads. And then I started looking for additional fabric, so those darker patches there to give that rose a little bit more depth. It was already printed, but I just reinforced it with even darker fabric. So in amongst all that is additional fabrics collaged. Then I started stitching. I think it was the last day. I was like, well, what am I going to do today? Like, it took me a whole day just to go around there with all the giggling and mucking around that goes on. It was just good to pick it up when I could and do a bit of stitching. These leaves, I just did just a little minimal stitch, kept it simple, not too intensely dense, and then added darker fabric just to make those leaves and buds look a little bit more textured. And that pocket had come off. I used the fabric to cover it, running stitched over it, so everything is entirely stitched. That's just good mindless stitching. As you can see, the back of the calico is where all the stitching is from the green being stitched down. There's hours and hours of work in this thing, and because I'd unpicked it, let me just do that. That pocket there is still waiting for something. So when I settle into my room and have a look at the treasures that I was gifted, there might be something that inspires me to do something here. And then that can be reattached around the edge, whether it's some binding or, because it had a binding, a bias binding around it of this calico fabric. That, I don't know where that's got to, but I'm thinking I could probably come up with a new edge. That then would give my pocket back. Now the original pattern, there was a stitch line down here, so it was 2 pockets for 2 pairs of stockings, I'm guessing, hosiery, and this one here. But because I did this embroidery on here, I didn't want to go down there with my stitch, so I moved it over, and I've got a smaller pocket there and then the bigger pocket. So slight adjustment to the original, but I'm not storing stockings in this. Goodness knows what I'll store in it, but nice big pocket behind the rose, little pocket here for maybe some scissors or something. Then this flap here, depending on what I do, maybe I'll do something here and have a little pocket over here. Like, I need to consider that in what I do. So that's the next part of the project. That then flips up there to show that, which is purely decorative. Having said that, maybe I could put a little pin cushion here, you know, when you're working, just have somewhere for your pins, or magnetic needle holder, and then that came down. So I pretty much deconstructed the piece, clad it, and then used the retreat to create some memories. So I'm still yet to feature that fabric. And I had all of these little guys that I picked up. So what I'm going to do is just put that aside. Hang on, I'm going to cough, I think. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to put it aside as it is, and I've got a project ready that I can revisit when I get a moment. So there you go. I think that's it. I'm going to say goodbye. I'm looking forward to a quiet weekend. I'm just going to finish my sewing caddy. And then I can start thinking about the 2 prompts that I'm needing to do. So that'll be next week. You have a video Monday already in the lineup waiting for the squirrel. And then Friday, that video is also done. So this coming week, I need to catch up. So have a great weekend. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for tuning in. Kiss, kiss to all the girls. Loved hanging out with you. It was the best time. We're already scheming our next event. So stay tuned. I won't say anything yet in case it gets, doesn't work. But, I'm thinking about what I can do next year. All right, guys. Say goodbye. See yous. Look after yourselves. Bye.